Why do you keep avoiding your fears? And what's it costing you? All right. This is yours truly, Jovie J, Sumner, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Breakthrough Boss Podcast, the Daily Recharge. Today's topic is, what's the cost of avoiding your fears, and what's it costing you to pretend that they don't exist? So we'll get right down to it because today's episode is going to be a heavy hitter. I recently noticed in my life that there are a lot of fears that I avoid. This has been going on for a long time. And I have learned that this is what we call resistance. It's something that I've worked with my own coach quite often. My coach, Carolyn Rim, and her husband, Jason Ozuna, do a form of work called soul liberation work. It's very powerful, and it helps people to acknowledge their soul ties, their soul energy in their family, what we call soul lineage energy. Now, this is a very powerful methodology for helping people to go beyond and grow beyond areas in their life where they may have often felt stuck. The key thing that I would like to share with my listeners today is oftentimes what I have learned from both of these beautiful souls is that the more we resist, another Tony Robbins quote, the more we resist something, the more it persists, the more it will persist. And for myself and a lot of other people, a lot of times we don't like acknowledging what we are afraid of, men especially. We don't like acknowledging our fears. I'm not even totally sure why this is. I just know that it's unpleasant. Now, here is the key. The key is this: the more you ignore what you're afraid of, the more it persists. And when I say persist, what I'm saying, the more it will lead you, the more it will direct you, the more it will drag you, most likely in the direction that you don't want to go in. So one of the first keys that men can really begin to use in order to evolve beyond their fears is to simply admit that we are afraid. Let me give you an example. Carolyn, my coach, she reached out to me today about an event. Now, one of my fears in life, and one of my biggest fears, has always been not having enough money or having too much money. Because if I had too much money, well, I guess that would be bad in my mind. It would mean I would have more than you. It would mean you might have less than me, or you might have less if I have more, So that's always been a big fear. Another fear of mine is I've always been afraid to become too successful. Because if I become, in my mind, too successful, then what will happen if I fail? But if I play it in the middle, see, I can always have an excuse to hide behind, to say, see, it's because of this why I didn't accomplish that. And so what I have been learning on my journey, and my sincerest desire, is that you all would take the material I'm sharing with you today and use it immediately and make it an active part of your lifestyle. Because if you do, I guarantee it will free you. It will free you from many of the hidden fears that have been holding you back and keeping you in bondage. I guarantee you, these are keys that will unlock doors in your life you never imagined possible. So please don't just listen. Use the material that I am talking about and discussing today, because it works, my friends. So key number one, as men, we have to begin to admit that we are afraid, and we have to begin to admit that we have fears. In the book, The Way of the Superior Man, the author talks about we have to call our fears out of the darkness. And really what that means is stop ignoring that we have fears. Stop ignoring that there are things in our lives that we are afraid of. Stop pretending that these fears don't exist. Because the more that we pretend they don't exist, the more they will disrupt our lives, the more they will keep us from being able to accomplish what we desire to have and experience what we desire to have in our lives. So it's very important even if it's just to yourself. You can do it with someone who you trust. You can do it with your creator. You could do it in prayer. You can do it in meditation. You can do it just in your own inner dialogue or openly. But call the fears out of the darkness and bring them into the light. Because when we admit that we are afraid, we are acknowledging that there is something we have been avoiding. And when we do this, we now have an opportunity to rise above and slay these dragons. The second thing I'm going to share with you is the reason why men often avoid our fears is because we like to hide and we like to pretend that we have it all under control and that there's nothing bothering us and that there's nothing we're afraid of. And that's bullshit. As men, we have fears just like anyone else. We have plenty of fears. The key to this is we have to stop hiding and we have to stop pretending that we don't have fears. When we embrace these fears can actually help us. When we acknowledge these fears will reveal to us parts of ourselves that maybe we have been unwilling to acknowledge or even admit were a part of who we are. Because a lot of times what these parts of us want is to be brought into integration and to be brought into wholeness. And we are so busy ignoring them, denying them, resisting them, that we are actually wasting valuable time and energy by not acknowledging them and by pretending that they don't exist and by hiding from them. In the book, Light Side of the Dark Chasers, the author speaks about this, and she speaks about how all of these parts of us, they just want to be acknowledged and accepted, just like the good parts of us, or the parts we deem or label as good. You know, the parts that we want to show off to everyone. Hey, look what I accomplished. Look what I did. Look at the good deed I did. Well, the parts of us that are less desirable, they want this same attention. They want this same acknowledgement. And often, the more we hide them, the more we pretend they don't exist, the more they will work against us or pull us in the opposite direction because they're just dying for our attention. They're just saying, hey, look at me, acknowledge me. The lazy part of me, the part of me that doesn't want to do any work, the part of me that doesn't want to finish what I started, the part of me that eats too much, the part of me that spends too much money, the part of me that self-sabotages because I'm tired or burnt out. It wants your acknowledgement. So the second key is this. You have to stop hiding and pretending these parts of you don't exist. You cannot run from them. You cannot hide from them. I've tried. I know you've tried. We all have tried, and it doesn't work. So begin to take a different approach and begin to acknowledge these parts of yourself that you may not want to acknowledge. And the sooner that you do this and embrace them and bring them into wholeness, the sooner these parts of you will no longer be in resistance, but will actually begin to give you assistance for what it is that you're, moving towards or that you desire to have or do in your life. So that is the second key. Now for a moment, I want to turn our attention to the possibilities, the solutions. And if you think about it, what if for just a moment you acknowledge these fears? What if just for a moment you say, hey, you know what? Sometimes I feel alone. There's a part of me that feels alone. Sometimes I feel like I never have enough money. There's a part of me that feels like I'll never be a multimillionaire or whatever your desire may be. What if for just a moment you just simply said, there's a part of me that feels sometimes like I'm not enough. We all have that part of us. And what if we just said, you know what? I embrace you and I love you and I accept you, just like I accept all the other parts of myself and who I am. What if we did that? Oh, baby, now you're beginning to break through. Now you're beginning to awaken. And when you begin to awaken, you can begin to ascend. Here's what that means. It means that your soul is awakening to who you really are. And as you awaken to who you really are, you begin to ascend into the possibilities of what you really desire to have and what's available to you in your life. The last thing I'm going to touch on is this. Another solution for avoiding our fears or pretending that our fears don't exist is this. Let's ask ourselves, what if our fears store hidden treasures? What if our fears store hidden treasures? And what if these hidden treasures contain gifts in them? And if you open the treasure box, there would be gifts inside that you've been seeking, you've been searching for all of your life, possibly in the external world. But what if the reality is these gifts and these treasures have been right there in plain sight, hidden within you, just waiting for you to unlock that treasure box? And what if those fears have stories? What if those fears can reveal truths to you? And what if those fears can help you to rise and break through and progress to new levels? What if you ask these fears, what is it that you desire to have? Because what if these fears were just parts of our shadow selves? And what if the parts of our shadow selves were just dying to let us know what they need and what they want? Because they want to be able to help us, and they want to be able to serve us as well as others. And they want to be able to contribute and create and produce at new levels. But we never acknowledge them. And because we've never acknowledged them, we don't even know they're there. And because we don't even know they're there, they're not able to reveal to us the gems and the jewels within us that they hold. Whoa. Think about that for a moment. So the next time you feel the resistance of a fear coming up, ask the fear, what do you want? Acknowledge it and ask that fear, what hidden gems and treasures and jewels do you contain? How can you help me? If you begin to do this, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that by embracing the shadow parts of yourself, by embracing the parts of yourself you fear and that you are resisting, you will begin to awaken and accelerate and ascend and break through to new levels in your lives. And this is my sincerest desire for not only myself, but for you, the listeners, as well, that you will awaken, accelerate, and ascend and break through to new levels that you never even imagined possible. And I know that it's possible, and I know that this stuff works. So give it a try. And if it helps you in some way, drop me a comment, send me a message, and let me know, because that's what I'm here for, and that's what Breakthrough Boss is all about. As always, I want to remind you, stay focused, stay disciplined, stay dedicated, and stay hungry, because lions are always hungry for more. I'm your host, Jovie J. Sumner, sending you love, light, peace, and prosperity. God bless, guys.